and I'm excited about being here again, Wendy. Money Monday or Money Monday, Money Moves. It's not Monday, it's Tuesday. Hello. It's kind of tell you the day I had yesterday. But anyway, we've got some exciting stuff to talk. Did you have a great weekend?
Amazing.
Good.
Always. I mean, it is what you make it, right?
Yeah, when you're living that charmed life and kind of getting your act together, empowering financially and stuff like that. I mean, it's amazing the pressure just having a plan takes off of you when it comes to money, at least, right? And that's some of the awesome stuff that we talk about. And we talked to some clients last night about that, and a lady actually commented, she's like, "Man, I feel so like a weight's been lifted." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because you're taking action on your money and you're making some moves, some money moves." So. We've got a big conversation going on. I'm wearing my purple. I'm feeling all springy, right? And what comes with spring? Weddings. A lot of people getting married. You got a couple of, usually in February, March, you've got wedding, not conferences. What's the word I'm looking for? Like conventions? Expos. Thank you. Yeah. So it's been a minute for me, but yeah, they're called expos. So we've got a lot of that coming around. So today, Winnie and I talk, we're actually going to be talking about financial moves or important financial decisions you need to make as a newlywed, and some of the things, the pitfalls and things. Is one of the number one challenges to newlyweds is financial, and that's in all marriages. I guess it's not newlyweds, but so today we're going to be talking about the top 5 things that you should be thinking about financially as a newlywed. So do me a favor. If you haven't already clicked that subscribe button, do that for us. But share this with a friend. Reach out to a friend. Say, hey, I know you're getting married or whatever. We're going to get started here in just a second, and share that link, blackswanmoney.com. And we'll get started in just a second. So we're back. I know, right? It's like, yes, Black Swan Money is here to teach you about money. Yeah. So I tell you what, it should be dramatic. People don't pay enough attention. I'm telling you what. I mean, it's like the Blues Brothers movie, right? It's the old one with I can't remember, John Belushi and the other guy, Dan Aykroyd, right? And there's a scene in there where he's like, we're on a mission from God. And that's what I feel like. It's like, it's a wake up call for your money, folks. You need to wake up. Yeah. Right. And that's kind of what it's all about. So Winnie, I don't know about you, I'm excited about this stuff. I think this is a lot of good information for young people kind of starting out, or even older people starting anew. Right. So
yeah, I think it's great information if you're just starting out. And then I will say I've done most of this stuff wrong. Just throwing that out there. But even if you're already married and already in it, it's still good information if you want to get better at your communication about money. So
yeah, exactly. Be in it to win it, not only together, but in finances. And that's one of those things. So, looking at all of the different aspects and challenges you've got, if you kind of have that clear path going into your new marriage or whatever the case may be with that special someone, finances are a big, big challenge. And it's one of those things that, especially in middle America, we don't really talk about that. We don't talk about our religion. We don't talk about well, I guess politics thing's kind of out the window now, but we don't talk about money. And that's unfortunate, because that's, again, where the biggest source of challenges are for newlyweds.
I think number one reason for divorce, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually, because people get frustrated. They don't communicate about it. And they didn't have the conversation going in. So all of a sudden, the habits aren't aligned and things like that. So that's why, not that you're not going to marry somebody because their credit score is too low or things like that, but you want to have that conversation and get a game plan together. And that's really that first step. That first challenge is you not having a financial plan going into it, right? That long-term plan, not only for, hey, how are we going to pay for the wedding or whatever the case may be, if your parents aren't paying for it or whatever, but having a long-term plan of what's it going to look like the next year, what's it going to look like the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, where do you want to go, right?
Saving, and if you have kids, there's lots of stuff that go into it. I'll tell you, I never had that conversation, the long-term plan. It was like, where are you at today? And cool, let's go. And I mean, really, I haven't had a long-term financial plan until recently. So I think if you do that going into a marriage, like you're way ahead of the game, you know?
Well, and that's the thing, right? Again, you're making all the plans and kind of setting it up, and you're getting any issues up and out early, right?
Right.
So that way you can talk about them. It's not that like, okay, well, I'm out. No, it's so you can actually have a conversation about them and say, okay, can we live? What's the compromise? Can we do this? What about X? Or the other person may not, have any kind of clue what about money whatsoever, or maybe you both don't. So it's like, okay, well, we don't really know about this stuff. Now, when I first got married, the church we were at, they had a class we had to go to. If you wanted to use the church, you had to go through this class, and there was a week spent on the financial aspect of it. So, but even that was like entry level stuff, not like really kind of thinking through some things. But it is so critical that you kind of get in line with each other on what are your financial goals. I mean, are you kind of a YOLO, live for today kind of personality, and the other person's like, I don't want to spend any money, and because there can be extremes in both sides of it, right? And it's like, no, we can't have any fun whatsoever, so we can retire and have no, it's like, no, you've got to find that compromise. But here's the thing, you don't want to talk about it 5 years down the road, right? And be frustrated with it for, 5 years or whatever the case may be. Get it out early and then have that conversation. And that's how you start also deepening that relationship, kind of building it, right? And but that long-term plan is key, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah. So and that kind of ties into number 2, which is walking in blind. Right. And I'm not talking about, putting on a blindfold and kind of, okay, let's see what happens or whatever. No, it's, looking at those things about the other person. I mean, as a newlywed, you're getting to know people and stuff like that. Right.
Yep.
But you should probably get to know about some other stuff.
Right.
I mean,
Their spending habits, their debt, because when you come together, it becomes the burden of both people. I don't know. I think all state laws are different, but I know there are some states, like when you get married, that person's debts become yours. And there's like a financial responsibility. I know when I got married last time, because I went for anyway, whatever. I had a house and I never put his name on the house, but it didn't matter when it was all said and done financially. They said, if you've been married and you've been living together for a certain amount of time, then it's considered his as well. And any refinancing or anything has to include them. So, and I think that's a Tennessee law. I don't know if it's everywhere, but so when you walk in blind and you have no idea, like, it's about you being prepared. So.
Well, and even kind of touching on that, I mean, you talk about, okay, hey, you're married, and kind of, even though it was in your name, you've been married for X and this, that, or the other. Some states even have what's called common law, meaning you don't even have to be married, but if you're cohabitating for a period of years, and usually it's somewhere in the 5 to 7 range. But if you've been living together that long, even though you didn't walk down the aisle with that person, in the government side, you're pretty much married. So when it comes to the assets and stuff, but that's kind of getting off track a little bit, but it's really kind of going into it. The spending habits was a good one, right? Because if you're a saver and they're a spender and you don't really talk about that, yeah, it's great because maybe, they're buying you a bunch of gifts and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, this is so awesome. But, you got to look at the underlying, that's a spending habit. And do they do that all the time? Because, when all of a sudden things start happening, life starts happening, things get tight and they're still out there buying stuff all the time because they don't have that boundary or whatever. Then it becomes a little more of a challenge. You're looking at it through a different set of lenses. So, the spending habits. Go ahead.
I think credit score too, like if you want to buy a house together, right? Or if you want to buy cars together, like those are things that, and not to say peace out if your credit's bad, but have a plan, going back to that financial plan, right? Having a plan to work on it so that you can achieve those goals.
Well, and set boundaries, right? And agreed boundaries, not you setting boundaries to kind of lock in the other person, but setting boundaries to say, hey, this is what we agreed on, because some people look at credit as like, I'm going to pay it, right? So they're going to get paid. I just don't pay it by the due date. Well, that's going to impact your credit. And when you start having joint accounts and stuff like that, that's going to impact your credit, which means it's going to impact your ability to buy a house, buy a car, things like that. And we've got other videos we've done on credit scores and stuff like that. So look at that stuff. But you want to talk about that, those spending habits, right? And, the other thing is the debts, are they coming into it? We talked about that, coming into it with a bunch of debts, a bunch of student loans, things like that. All of a sudden, once you come together, it's kind of it's all of yours now. So welcome to the club. But it's those are the things you have to think about. And again, like Wendy said, doesn't mean you're gonna go peace out. No way, Jose. But go back to step number one, get that long-term plan. What is our plan to kind of go into that and not have that burden of debt for a lifetime or things like that. And talk about money. Money can be fun. I think we've made it fun. The whole edutainment kind of thing, and talking about money, talking about your financial goals with your soon-to-be spouse or your fiance or your partner or whatever, can be a blast, especially when you guys are kind of having that conversation and really say, oh yeah, we're in this, let's do, and go and move forward on that together. So anything else to add on that walking in blind? Because that's a big one. A lot of people are just, I've seen it, puppy eyes and stuff like that, and just the heartbeat. And it's like, oh, I don't care, whatever. Let's just make it. Yeah, well, okay. Then reality sets in, right? It's the honeymoon phase, like your honeymoon phase on your job. When the honeymoon's kind of over and things settle into real life, it gets real. So
I have a real quick story. I'm not calling any names, but I have friends/family members, we'll just say, who one big spender, not really concerned with financial future. The other one, like the most extreme planner financially that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing for him. He's like, no, we're having a talk. What is your credit score? Now, he didn't like any of the stuff she had to say, but he loved her. So they worked it out. They're still together today. But it was definitely like that was a big thing that they had to talk about and that he had to feel comfortable with before moving forward. So, total opposites. They made it work and they're doing awesome today. So,
well, and that's the piece, right? You go into it with eyes wide open.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is, all of a sudden it's a done deal and you're in and you're like, whoa, what is all this? I didn't know about any of this, right? Mm-hmm. Where was the full disclosure? So you got to ask the questions. You got to have the conversations, and the finance piece is a big cornerstone of success for a healthy relationship, right? Whether, again, it's common law or marriage or newlyweds or whatever the case may be, or, just make sure you're talking about it. So number 3 is combining finances too early. Okay. And, a lot of people, I've got separate accounts and things like that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but a lot of people, again, they go all in and, hey, we got a puppy together. So now let's combine our finances, even though we're not going to get married for 2, 3, 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. And that could cause some major, major headaches. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait till you've signed on the dotted line. I'm just kidding. Because it's difficult enough, right? Like, if you've been married and you're separating and have to divide things up, like, don't put that pressure on yourself. This is coming from, older people to younger people. Like, don't put the pressure on yourself to then commit to marriage because you've committed to finances too early. Does that make sense? Like, I've known people, right, that just because they got wedding gifts, they wanted to back out of their wedding, but because they got wedding gifts, they felt too committed and had to move forward with it. Right. Imagine what the pressure of combining your finances early would do.
I was just thinking, okay, well, we got the toaster, so we got to go through it now. So anyway, take the receipt and do what you got to do. But anyway, no, but that's a great point, right? I mean, you look at that aspect and really it's all about the protection, the legal protection. Okay. Because, I get it. You verbally committed to each other and, hey, that we're in this and stuff like that. But what happens is life happens, right? If something, blows that relationship out of the water before you get married, you don't really have any protections.
Yeah. Okay.
And what we're talking about there is, the laws for couples and protecting one another, like, when he was talking about earlier, hey, the house was in, one person's name. Well, the other person's still protected on that asset, the value of that asset, because they're married, right? Mm-hmm. Or had common law marriage. So they've been together for a while. So in looking at that, if you've been kind of together for a year, maybe 2, and okay, now we're living together, let's just go ahead and put all our finances together and we're going to decide that we'll get married down the road. Well, if you do that and somebody changes their mind, you don't have any protection on any of that. Meaning, somebody can just close out the bank account, gone, and there's nothing you can do about it because it was in both of your names. And I'm talking to both women and men. Right. Mm-hmm. And so the other side of that coin is, okay, hey, we're going to buy a house together, but my credit sucks. Right. So we're going to put it just in your name. So that way we don't have to have all my bills and stuff like that. So, but I'm still paying for half of it. 2, 3, 4 years later, all of a sudden hey, I'm out, and
You have no asset.
there's no asset there. There's
Yeah.
no protection. So that's really what we're talking about combining too early. You want to make sure you're protected, right? Not that you have to get married, but look at your state laws. We're not attorneys, but look at your state laws and that common law trigger. Okay, after that point, yeah, you're considered, the assets are together and whatnot. So, but again, consult your local states and things like that. But you want to keep that in mind about combining the accounts too early. Okay, and then the third one, the fourth one is, and I see this too, everybody wants to have that Cinderella marriage, right? Where they saw, Cinderella, oh, let's do this big wedding, all this, that, and the other. I know, back in the day we did that, and it was expensive. And, a lot of people, their parents, the traditional sense is, I think it's the dad or the bride's family pays for the wedding and the groom's family pays for the rehearsal dinner, whatever.
Yep.
But things have changed a lot, right? So a lot of couples are paying it themselves.
For themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And, hey, we'll just cover it. And, you look at that, they'll put it on a credit card or something like that, or take out a loan in this big extravagant wedding because they're thinking monthly payment, we can do that. But what a horrible way to start out a relationship is with a mountain of debt.
Yeah.
Right. You're already behind the 8 ball the minute you say I do. And, if you're thinking about that, and I'm not here to tell you what to do, it's your money, your decision, right? But you don't want to go into a massive amount of debt. I mean, weddings are not cheap. Even if you go with just the chicken, right? It's not cheap. And it's just a horrible way to kind of start off a relationship. So rethink it. There's some other, there's a lot of other things you can do, right, Wendy?
Yeah. So when I got married in 2009, we just had a front yard BYOB, and people said it was the best wedding they ever went to. They had a blast. We got married in the front yard. A friend married us, and we had barbecue, right? Barbecue and some fixins and a Bluetooth speaker. I mean, it was but it was laid back and fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing right there. Now, hopefully, your friend was like a legitimate pastor or something, and legal to do that, able to do that.
Actually, fun story. That part wasn't. We did it legally before, but nobody knew that.
Oh, got it. Okay, good. Yeah, you got to do all the paperwork too, folks. So, but the big part of that, it doesn't have to be this big expensive thing, right? And you can still have an awesome thing. I had a friend of mine that it was his second marriage, and they went down to, I think it was the Bahamas, right? Invited a few friends down, and it was fantastic. And the thing was, everybody got the package deal. I think it was at like beaches or something like that, and it was great. And they had
then the honeymoons combined. You're paying for both.
Exactly. And you're there with your friends and things like that. So it's, and you can still do, a lot of people come back, say a celebration party or a celebration reception or whatever. And those are relative, you rent a room, everybody shows up with gifts. So you still get the toaster, right? And people still get to celebrate, but they didn't have to go and, go into this big wedding, and you didn't have to go into debt. Yeah. That's kind of the big thing. Is, you may not think it's a big deal. And, if and I'm talking to the guys out there now, if you're getting that nudge, like we're having the big wedding, keep in mind, I've got a daughter, that I think that's literally every girl's dream, is to have that Cinderella wedding, because they think about it literally all their life, ever since they started playing Barbies, right? So you got to appreciate that and make it special, but it doesn't have to be outrageously
expensive. I'm here to tell the ladies that wedding's over in a second. And then you're like, that was a lot of planning and a lot of money for a really fast day.
And probably a lot of stress too, I would think. I mean, it seems to me like it would be pretty stressful. So number 4, don't put that wedding on a credit card or take out a loan for it. Keep it simple, keep it small, keep it in your budget. And if you can afford to have a great wedding, fantastic. You're paying cash for it, or parents paying for it, whatever. And I will tell the ladies out there, take it easy on dad. Just throwing that out there in case my daughter ends up watching this. So, and I think the 5th one, and this is the biggie. Right. And this is the commitment to everything. Okay. Not working as a team. You look at that, and we talk about combining the money too early. Well, as you go into that relationship, you need to kind of bring everything together. And I'm not just talking about, combining your finances. There's different schools of thoughts on that, where we still operate independently, or we've each got our own little private accounts, and then we have a joint account, we pay everything, or some people bring it in together. I'm not going to get into that a whole lot, maybe a little bit. My personal thing is, you're in together, bring it together, right? That way there's full transparency and stuff like that. But you don't need to have the accounts together to have full transparency. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Wendy, but
Yeah.
like I'm kind of a bring it all together kind of guy.
I mean, so again, I've done this all wrong. And so I can speak from the other side of it, that I'm sorry. Hold on, please. I have a child in the background making crazy noises. Anyway, I have done it all wrong. And I was very protective of like my stuff and anyway, I'm just saying that. Anyway, but what I do think is that you should have full transparency, okay? And that it's not going to work if you don't. And having full transparency and being open and honest. And honestly, I've hid stuff, right? Because I saw it stressed him out if I brought certain things up. So I'm like, I'm not going to bring it up. And so I just kept it all to myself, and it put undue pressure on me to have to juggle all the balls and hold all the stuff together. And it caused separation. So I would say working as a team is probably the biggest piece of advice that I can give. And I think it's okay to have some separate spending accounts that like, hey, here's your fun money for the month. Here's your fun money for the month. Yeah. And so you can like buy things for each other. And it, like Christmas was always like stupid because it's like, if you buy something for me, I know where you got it because I see it on the check register, right? Like, so I guess you could take out cash anyway. But I kind of like the idea of a little bit of a separate fun money account, but still full access, right? Letting them see it if they want to.
Yeah.
Again, I've done it all wrong. And that's something that I learned the hard way. And so I think it's, my biggest piece of advice is going into any relationship like that, where you're coming together in marriage or, to have full transparency and share that together. And I think it can build a ton of intimacy, actually.
Yeah, especially, if you're like-minded and you've got going back to the long-term financial goals and you're like, yeah, okay, we're on the same page and things like that. It does. And, you don't have to bring everything together, like when he was talking about having separate accounts, but you can do that where everything's coming in, and then instead of having your own accounts and then you putting into a central account, you put everything into a central account and then you have your side accounts, right? So that way it is full transparency, but you don't have to hide gifts or things like that. Or, you don't have to feel guilty to go and have a girls' night or get your nails done, or, guys go hang out with your buddies at whatever, or go to a concert with some guys or whatever. You've got your money for that. But the thing that kind of centers around all that is the budgeting piece. Yep. And, I tell everybody, you've got to budget together as a couple. You can't have one person doing it, because, whether it's you as the guy or the lady's doing it, or, your partner's doing it and you're not participating, that's a problem, because what happens is all that stress, all that burden is put on the other person. Yep. And, if you're not the one helping or participating, you're going through your life with blinders on and thinking everything was okay. And the other person's stressed out, but they don't want to tell you because they don't want to stress you out or whatnot. And that creates that, like she was talking about, that separation from your connection. And it also can create some resentment over time. Right. And that's one of the things you want to make sure you're avoiding. But that budget, I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't budget, don't bother, because you will never be financially successful, period. End of story. And I can't stress that enough. I'm going to preach it from the podium. But it's the truth. And it doesn't have to be this nasty, scary thing. There's a lot of great resources out there. Every dollar, that's a great, simple app. Really, I'm a huge fan of mint.com, mint.com. And make it a date night. Setting up Mint can be a little stressful, but grab a bottle of wine, and sit down and kind of get your goals together and kind of put your finances in there. And you'll be amazed at what it can do for you. But that budgeting piece tied into your financial goals, how are we going to pay for X, Y, or Z? How are we going to protect our storms from, with an emergency fund and things like that? It really lets you focus on you, the two of you, right? And really kind of look at that from that perspective. I don't know, Winnie, kind of going on there a little bit.
Well, I was just sitting here thinking about calls that we've done together of people that we're helping. And when it's a couple coming together, it's so powerful, right? And then you see the difference in stress level when it's somebody coming in who they're not doing it together.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that's been huge for me to see. And then, yes, the budget piece. I'm still working on this.
We all
Is
are. We
budgeting.
all are.
Yeah. But it is the big difference maker. And that's the other thing I've seen in working with you and helping other people is like the people that know their budget have way less stress.
Mhm.
Like the people that are like, oh yeah, we're talking to them and they're like, yeah, here's my every dollar, but right. This is
Yep.
what we got. Sorry. And it's a way different level of stress than the people that are like, I have no idea. We don't, oh well.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so, and then we find that like you should have way more money than you do.
yeah. Well, and that's the holes in the bucket, right? And a lot of people are
Mhm.
spending way more money than they think. And they, I don't save money because I don't have enough money. I want to tell you
Yeah.
right now, that is not the truth. You don't know where your money's going. And so it's leaving you and you think you don't have enough money, but it's there. And that's where that budget piece comes in. So I would challenge each of you to go to mint.com, right? Each of you to go to mint.com. And then, the other thing is get a plan in place. If you want a free financial plan, we'll do one for you. Okay. Normally I don't bring that up, but going through life, take some action. It's one of those things that it is so empowering when you have a plan in place, when you know where you're headed, when here's what I need to do to hit my goals, rather than hoping it all works out. And let's be honest, that's what most of us do, right? That's what most of us do is we just kind of hope all this works out. I'm going to put money away. I don't really know where, but it'll work out, right? Right. And, we hear one story or this, that, or the other, but we don't have the true basic plan in place because we're either too intimidated by it or we don't think money can be fun, which is not true. I'm going to tell you right now, it's fun, especially if you do it the way, Winnie and I have been teaching people to do it. I mean, that's one of the things that, our company or my company has been doing. That's why she's taken her company and her talking about this stuff, but you look at how you bring it all together. Okay. It makes it so easy for you. It makes it so less stressful when you actually empower yourself and educate yourself on how money works. You put that plan together. You're coming into a new relationship. I'm sure you've got all the hopes and dreams for your relationship. Why create an additional potential roadblock on the finances? Have a long-term plan. Okay. Don't walk into it blind. Have that conversation. I'm sure you're getting intimate with that person on other levels and other areas. Get intimate on your finances too, and talk about that stuff. Talk about your money, your goals, your dreams, what's going on, your spending habits, things like that. And then, be okay with not combining things out of the gate. It's that get to know you period and wait until you're actually together, either through common law or, and it's a personal decision for everybody. I'm not here trying to give marriage advice on that. Right. But again, set yourself up for success. Putting that wedding and honeymoon on a credit card. You know what? Don't get me wrong. The pictures are cool, but they're just pictures, and you bust them out maybe that first year, and then after that, it's like, oh yeah, let me get. It's like, okay, so the memories are good. Don't get me wrong, but man, you could go and have so many awesome memories, just like Winnie was talking about with her, BYOB marriage, right? It's kind of, hey, everybody come in, it's a carry-in, and you're having a fun, because that's not what it's about. It's not about seeing all the, I don't even remember what we had at my wedding as far as dinner and stuff like that. I remember it was expensive. Because I remember the stress it created, but I don't remember what we actually had. Whereas, the memories of, going to my friend's wedding, yeah, that was freaking awesome, man. Why didn't I do that? And it was a hell of a lot cheaper because we were all paying for our own ways there. And then, again, not working as a team. You've got to work as a team, and you've got to, if there are some challenges or some things that pop up, whether it's beforehand or after, and this is the last thing I want to talk about are the red flags. You've got to talk about them, address them early, because if you don't address a red flag early, it's just going to continue to grow and fester. And then it's, it could cause some headaches. And that's really what happens, with financial challenges in marriages. It's the fact that people don't talk about the stuff. They ignore red flags. All of a sudden there's money missing, or, this, that, that's like a weed, right? If you don't pull it, it's going to continue to grow.
Neglect grows like a weed.
It does. Exactly. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. I don't know what it was. I woke up this morning, the sun's out. It's like, okay, well, I'm thinking spring because Christmas is gone, so winter needs to be gone. And then it just started hopping in with those whole weddings and all that stuff. So I think this was good, Wendy. I don't know if you got anything else to add.
No, I think it's good. I think it's a really good subject. So you guys, tag anyone let's engage. And I have to say, I've seen like 1 million engagement posts in the last couple weeks. It's
Yes.
crazy. I'm like, everyone's like recovered from 2020 and they're like, let's get married.
I know, right?
Because
Yeah,
I've
I don't
seen
know.
so
That's
many posts.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was like the whole Christmas thing. It was like a bunch of them at Christmas, and then I saw my single friends were like, mark themselves safe from Christmas proposals. And I think that was I don't think they were actually happy about that, but anyway, it was kind of funny, a funny little
Totally
spin on
funny.
it. But this is a big piece of the conversation that needs to happen. So if you know somebody, or maybe your kids are getting married, or a couple that's getting married, share this video with them.
Yeah.
And as always, make sure you're catching our weekly Money Moves show. Like it, subscribe to it, click that little bell so you get alerts when they come out. We do them every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. So make a point to share and help us grow the channel. I mean, what we're trying to do is really just get the word out that money is actually a lot more fun and a lot easier than most people think, and it doesn't have to be that scary thing. So again, everybody, Wendy, thanks for being here as always. And everybody, thanks for watching us. And let's go out and make your money moves. Take action and make it happen. So have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.